so professional. Here we go. Welcome to the Live Support Podcast with your hosts, Michele and June, a couple of clean comedians who support each other and others through comedy's wacky and winding roads. I hope you're ready. Get set. Let's go. Since podcasts have a catchy tune, we wrote this song for Michele and June. Clean comedians are best friends too. Oh, that's so good. And you never know what they'll say or do. Here we go, sing with me on Live Support. With Michele, who's really short. We'll have a ball. With June, who's really tall. They have fun, interviewing comedians on Live Support. With Michele, who's really short. Now it's time to start Live Support.
The Live Support Podcast is brought to you by the Hot Breath Comedy Network.
Wow, give yourself a round of applause.
Welcome to the award-winning Laugh Support Podcast. I'm your host, June Colson, here with my best friend, Michele, with one L, Rhonda Colson, Corey's friend, Trisha's sister, don't call me Shelly, Michele Van Dusen. What's up, sister?
What's up?
Okay. She's kazooing. You know why? Kazoo can do it.
That's right. Ta-da! Okay, so here's the deal. At our last episode, we were discussing the Huckabee show, and we talked about the gift that you gave my husband, and
Yes.
How he hardly shared any M&Ms with me, and I was very disappointed, blah, 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 so on and so forth. Well, he was home for lunch while we were recording, and he must have heard me, because when I opened the door, this
Yes.
bowl was sitting out, and he put, there's like, so this is either what's left of the M&Ms, or this is my portion for today. Isn't that sweet?
Oh my gosh.
Isn't that sweet?
There's only okay, first of all, this is how much I love peanut M&Ms. I already counted. There's 7 in that bowl. Okay.
Yep.
Which bothers me, one, that it's an uneven number. Number 2, if I eat my M&Ms, I line them up by color. Do you do that? I line them up by color, and I eat like the yellow or the orange or whatever first, like boo. And then the last one I eat is the blue ones because it's my favorite color, but I want them to be in even numbers. So there's 0 shot that there's even numbers because there's only 7. This is my obsession with peanut M&Ms. I'm ashamed. I should be ashamed.
Okay, that's hilarious. No, I'm not that crazy about my M&Ms. I have in the past. I have separated them by color into separate containers. Like I have done that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I do. My kids are wonderful. They love me. My one son, he for my birthday one year, ordered the personalized M&Ms, and it came in a champagne looking like a wine bottle or whatever. And so you can unscrew the bottom and turn it over. Then it becomes a stand, and then you have this flute of M&Ms, and it had my face on one side and like my name.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, so I have that still, and he's every time he comes like, "You haven't opened it yet?" I'm like, "Well, I did drop it. It is cracked, but I haven't eaten them yet." And then my other son found or bought, I don't know, I'm just gonna go with he bought it, an old green and red M&M guys, like it was like a display of something. So it's on my wall way up there, which I can't show you right now because there's other things in my office, but it's up there. So I have it up. And anyway, and I have collected a lot of M&M things, in the boxes. So it has like the figurines, and got to be honest. So I have opened all those boxes, so they're not in mint condition anymore because I ate the M&Ms out of there.
Yes.
So it is what it is.
There is one thing that it's M&M that I wish that I still had because it would be fantastic. So when I was in middle school, we were doing a candy fundraiser. And so because I'm over the top about everything, and like we were like super poor, but they were like, June, they would always pick me to write skits and things like that. Mm-hmm. So I decided that we were all going to dress up like M&Ms because we were selling candy. And we were going to come out in the middle school gym dancing to I Heard It Through the Grapevine. Dun, 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 dun,
Yeah, those
right?
are raisins, but so close.
Well, that was popular at the time. That was the California raisins were really popular at the time. But I was like, okay, we'll go out to that because it's a popular song, and we'll make M&M costumes. And there was a pattern. There was a pattern at Kmart you could get for an M&M costume. My mom didn't know how to sew, and she used scrap material. All my friends had their grandmothers sew their M&M costume. Michelle, I was a yellow cross-eyed M&M. My M&M was like,
that sounds about right. If I knew we were talking about M&Ms, I would have shown you. I have a dog that's an M&M pattern from Join the Cause. I have my son's girlfriend for Christmas got me a M&M cookie jar, which I keep M&Ms in, of course. Like I have so much M&M stuff. I could have just been like, look at this, and I have an M&M shirt and a blanket. And
you always have to not even one up me. You always have to like 10 up me, but I don't care what you have. You never had a yellow cross-eyed M&M costume and dance in front of your middle school.
I've made costumes like that for my children though. Like you saw recently on my post the little shamrock boys dressed in all green.
Yes.
Anyway, all I'm saying is I enjoy chocolate, and my husband shared 7 of his M&Ms with me. I just thought that was hilarious that he heard that and shared. So
what a great segue, though. Speaking of chocolate, Michele and June, we have an amazing interview about to happen today. Tell us who is on the show.
Okay, so our guest today is a comedian, a TV host, an actress, a speaker, an author. She's toured the world, performing everywhere, from like TV, theaters, churches, and everywhere in between. You may have seen her on Def Comedy Jam, BET's Comic View, MTV, the Bobby Jones Gospel Hour, BET's Gospel, the Kingdom Comedy Tour, Shonda Pierce's Unashamed, and the Stand Up for Families. She's toured and opened with for like everyone from like Bernie Mac to Kirk Franklin. And now she will grace our space. So let's welcome to the Laugh Support Podcast, Chinnita, aka Chocolate Morris. Woo, 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 woo. She's the goat.
That's the greatest of all
time.
Oh my goodness. Well, thank you guys for having me. It's great being here. Yes, and the M&M segue. Who does chocolate aside from my grandson?
I love chocolate. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, you do. And you guys, I love peanut M&Ms too. I really, really do. But I thought I loved them until I heard you guys talking before. Much just like them because I'm nothing like you guys with.
Did we run peanut M&Ms for you? I'm so sorry. But listen, I love them because I feel like they have protein in them. And so it's kind of healthy, right?
Yeah, that's exactly
well, anything, as far as I'm concerned, is healthy.
Yes.
Dark chocolate, they say that the antioxidants in dark chocolate are really good for your heart. And, so I feel like the way God has packaged me, funny because laughter is like medicine. So I'm just a healthy helping of Chinnita Morris.
Chinnita Morris, the dark chocolate. Okay.
Well, listen, helping. I'm here for you. I'm here to make you healthy.
She's the antioxidant comedian. That's
there you go.
That's pretty amazing. Well, hey, listen, we are so excited that you're on the show today. We talked a little bit before about kind of the theme behind our podcast and how it got started. And so we definitely wanted to reach out to you. You are a veteran of comedy. Michele reading off your career is just absolutely fantastic. And so we wanted to reach out to you and just go on that journey with you. So when you think back to when you began doing comedy, who was somebody that maybe comes to the top of your mind that was someone who was laugh support to you?
Well, now, I didn't start out good girls like you guys did. Okay. So I started, that. Okay. Cause you mentioned comedy jams and I know the Saints were like, what kind of interview is this? But no, that was over 20 years. Well, actually 30 years ago. So I was 8 years secular, and I came up with some they wind up being great entertainers now. So one of the very first laugh support comedians who had been doing it probably about 5 or 6 years before I got started. And he told me it was D.L. Hughley. And I remember him telling me, because I thought all comedians had to curse. And I was never a cursor. That just was not my thing. My mother back in the day, she did enough cursing for everybody. And this was before she got saved. And so it just turned me off. That was just never something I wanted to do. But when I got into comedy, I thought that all comedians cursed. I never heard of a Christian comedian. So I thought that was something you had to do. So before I ever stepped on stage, I practiced in the mirror and I practiced cursing. I practiced. But my very first night on stage, it did not come out. And I think I was just too nervous to try it. I still did good. And afterwards, I talked to DL and told him, that I had planned on cursing and I had practiced it. And he said to me, if you're not a cursor, don't curse. He said, because it's going to come across weird and people are going to know that you're not a cursor. And so I never had to do that. Now I did venture into some risque words, but never, I was never a cursor on stage or off stage for that matter. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So DL Hughley, which we know he definitely curses on stage. You would think that I mean, I think a lot of times that comedians, if you're not around the right one, even veterans give bad advice. So a lot of times they think that you should do what you do the way they do what they do. And what a blessing to have somebody right out of the gate because, well, as you said, you didn't start out as a clean comedian.
Mm-mm.
But that's one thing you didn't have to try and teach yourself to do, is to stop cursing when you're on stage, whenever you made that transition.
Well, like I said, I got to a place where, because I started out squeaky clean, my comedy was not sexual or anything, but the further I got into it, like I said, I was never a cursor, but I was very risque. And I used words that when I did come to Christ, God said, okay, yeah, that's got to go. So, and a lot of us, we think that we take a word and make it our own. And so my crutch really was the N word. And in our community, we feel like we use it as a term of endearment. But I can tell you that when I gave my life to Christ, God is my witness. That was the first thing God said had to go. That's got to go. That was the very first thing God said had to go. So, yeah.
What's interesting is that I've always done clean comedy because God didn't call me into comedy until he already had a hold of my heart, and a lot of things in my life have been cleaned up. But it was like that. The closer I got to God, the farther I got away from the language, because my humor was dirty before. My humor was it was a weapon in the area that I grew up. But for me, it was the B word, and it was calling that to other women. And that was the word that I used all the time. Right. And my friends called each other that, and nobody said, you know what I mean? Like, no man was saying that to me, but we were calling each other. And that was the one that I was like, that was my word. Now, Michelle, I think
I didn't
Michelle
have a word because I didn't have any friends. So
Come on. You didn't have any. You didn't have a word.
No, I didn't have a word. I had whoa because I was always on horses. I mean, so I was at the
Oh.
barn. I was a barn rat. So, growing up, I didn't really
Wow.
have any friends like that, except if they didn't have a lovely mane. So,
But this is why we're friends now, though, because I remind her of her horses when they're with my mate.
tall, no.
Yes. Yeah. So when you first began in comedy, so DL Hughley was one of the first people that came on to the scene. You said you did 8 years of secular comedy. So I imagine that was a huge transition whenever you transitioned to clean comedy and your faith in God and all of that had changed. So is there somebody as you made that transition that was life support to you and able to understand what you were going through?
I felt really alone because I was a part of a community that, was just so big and we were so close and all of us came up together. I mean, at that time, it was like comedy clubs. And so it wasn't just weekends. You were together from Tuesday through Sunday, and so we were all very, very close. And so I didn't have a lot of people who understood what I was doing because a lot of people were trying to get to where I was. And here I am saying, I've given my life to Christ. And so I'm walking away. And so I don't think a lot of people knew how to support me or what to say, because some people actually got angry with me, but I will say that I remember, and I don't even know how this guy got my phone number. And he's been a Christian comedian. He started out a Christian comedian, and his name is Broderick Rice. And the reason why it's so significant to get a call from him, he was huge. He was touring with all of the great gospel artists and everything. And I don't even know how this dude got my number, but I remember getting a call from him because truthfully, I was so determined to serve the Lord that I had decided I was going to quit doing comedy because I didn't know how to. I'd never even heard of Christian comedy. I knew that I had a lot of contracts that I still had to fulfill. And I had stopped doing a lot of the comedy that I knew went against the word of God. And so I was bombing everywhere. But yeah, because I wouldn't compromise. I wouldn't get on stage and feel like, okay, this is going downhill. Let me go to what I know. No, if it was going downhill, it was just going downhill. A lot of people knew that I had given my life to Christ, and some people were just disappointed because they wanted to see the old chocolate. Mm-hmm. But I remember being at home, and I don't know if he had heard that I had decided to quit doing comedy, but he called me and he talked to me and he said, I don't think that's what God wants you to do, and I didn't know him like that, but we became pretty cool after that. He said, no, I don't think that's what God wants you to do, Chocolate. He said, no, he said, you're just going to have to find your space, but you need to work that out. And so he encouraged me to stay on board. And so I did. I fought the good fight and learned to hear from God when he would say, okay, now you got to get rid of this joke. And I'm like, wow, it's not even a sexual joke. Yeah, but you're offensive to somebody and you're calling their name. And so Broderick Rice would be the one who encouraged me to stay on and just clean my act up, and it just had to be from God because I didn't even know him like that. I don't even know how he got my number.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
That.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. When God's telling you, drop this, drop that, versus another comedian, you listen a little bit better, right? I mean,
and it was so awesome the way God did it because it wasn't like he snatched everything, or maybe I don't remember him doing that. I remember it was a process, And I remember there were things that I knew absolutely had to go. I know that don't bring God glory.
Yeah.
And as time went on, and I would pick up another joke, and God says, "Okay, now you got to let that one go." And I didn't understand why. And I'm like, "Why? It's not even sexual." So I realized God's grace with me and how
Mm.
everything wasn't snatched at once, and He would feel this, feel another joke and say, "Okay, this one's got to go." And so it was just awesome the way God worked everything out.
Mhm. Isn't that interesting too that, the people around us don't always have our best interest in mind, and the fact that there were comedians, we've interviewed comedians who, Jeff Allen's a good example of that, of, a club owner going, "Come back when you start drinking again. You're not
Oh,
funny. You're not funny sober."
Yeah.
And yeah, and this, battle in that world that he was in, and much like someone being angry because you've given your heart to God and you're trying to glorify him,
Mhm.
but much like your story, if I recall right with Jeff, God put some what seems random to the
Yeah,
world, what we know is divine appointment.
Yeah.
yeah,
Some random people show up in your life that suddenly have your phone number. And when they're speaking for God, they can drown out the voices of 1,000 naysayers, right? Like this one person spoke to you. And I think a lot of times too that we think, oh, well, if what I'm doing, I can't do this way, well, I can't do it for God.
right. Yeah, yeah. And I mean, it is funny because I remember being told, even when I was secular and didn't curse, there were people who would actually tell me, "Yeah, you funny, but you don't curse. I need to hear some
Mhm.
curse." And I remember after I'd given my life to Christ, and I remember being at the airport and waiting at baggage claim to get and a lady noticed me and she said, "You're that comedian Chocolate." She said, "You just recently got saved." And I was like, "Yeah." And she was like, "So you stopped cursing?" I said, "Well, I never did curse." She said, "Yeah, you did." I said, "No, no, I didn't." She said, "You used the word bastard." I said, "Yeah, but bastard's in the Bible." She said, "Well, not in the context you use it."
Mm.
And from that day forward, because she felt like it was a curse word. And from that day forward, I was convicted to stop using that word because, the Bible tells us not to cause another brother to stumble, and so I felt like, well, if she and other people see it that way, then maybe I need to let that go too. But because I was justifying it because it was a word that was in the Bible.
Mm.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's why I
Yeah,
don't
but
do any jokes about donkeys or
well, well, see, and that's the thing. I wasn't using even the four-letter words, but the word bastard, I would say trifling bastard or something like that to
Mhm.
emphasize. And that became a signature for me. People knew me
Mhm.
saying that, trifling bastard or something like that. But yeah, I had to let that go too, because I felt like it was just God's way of showing me, people are listening, and you don't want to be a stumbling block for people, and so if it didn't bring Him glory, I wanted to get rid of it.
Mm. Mm. Now we see, like, what Michelle talked about some different specials that you were a part of. I have a CD I recently got from you at the LOLGCA, and there's our friend Shonda Pierce, and right beside Shonda is Chinnita and Taylor Mason. We just had him on the show, and so eventually you found yourself on some of these specials doing Christian comedy with this is the queen of Christian comedy right there, right? So tell us about how that supportive journey came about.
Yeah, and I had done a plethora of comedy DVDs to where you kind of get tired of doing them because
Mm,
people were making money off of you, and the DVD would really not do anything for you but for them. But
mm,
of course, I was thrilled to get a call from Shonda's team to say, "Hey, we want you on this project." Of course, because I've been in the Christian bookstores when they were brick and mortar,
yeah.
and would see the her videos, and so and I met her, Bone made sure that I met her at
Mm.
the Christian comedy conference, my first time going to the one in Nashville, or was Juliet or Joliet?
Mount
Am
Juliet. Yeah.
Yeah, it was Mount Juliet, and I remember
Yeah.
that,
Oh,
and it was so nice to meet you there. Just gonna
oh
put that
yeah.
out there.
Oh yeah. So so it was such a blessing to meet her and just see this woman who had been doing Christian comedy and just built this great community. And so to be a part of that project was and to just you know I have to be careful with my words, but the crossover effect, because we can be Christian comedians or comedians, but in our own communities. And that
Yeah.
I always wanted to do was be funny for everybody,
Yes. Yeah.
not just my people, but funny for everybody. And I think that that's very important.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah. So let me ask you this: as you got into this journey and you made this transition, um, you are a well-known name in Christian comedy. I wonder if if you had people coming behind you wanting your laugh support, wanting your mentorship, and was there anybody that you were able to kind of help on their journey?
There's been quite a few. I get DMs all the time, some from comedians who are they want to do comedy and they want to be clean. And even from some people who are not sure what they want to do, if they want to be clean or they just want to do comedy. Um,
Mm.
so it's a blessing to get those types of DMs on your messenger, asking you for advice. And I've watched your career for years, and just wanted to get some advice. What do I do? And when people ask me, which route should they take, if they should just do the comedy or should they do clean or Christian comedy, I said, well, who do my question to them becomes, who are you more determined to be pleasing to? Do you want to please
Mm.
God or people? Because that determines what type of comedy you do.
Mm.
That's good. That's really good. Now, have you kept in touch with like all the people that you were with when you first started out? Because you talked about like, DL. He told you if you don't curse, don't curse. Like, have you, since your career and your life has changed and you're following God, have you ever reached back and spoken with anybody from those days?
I've been doing Christian comedy now over 20 years. It seems
Mm.
like it just started yesterday, but so the relationships, I had really strong relationships, and they, very slowly dissipated, not to where we weren't still friends, but to the point we just didn't talk for years. And so they're all still very embracing of me. It's funny because one of my friends, actually the guy who gave me the name Chocolate, um, his name is Earthquake, and they have a show here this weekend in
Mm.
Raleigh. He called me to let me know that he wanted me to come to the show, and he's going to leave some tickets for me. And I love my friends. We came up tight, and as Cedric, the entertainer, is Dio, Dio Hughley, um, Earthquake, Mike Epps, and the only one that's on the show that I don't know, because he came behind me, and by that time I was out of the secular, and I think his name is Young DC Fly or something like that. And so I haven't seen them personally in years, like physically in years. I've watched their careers take off and just really blow up. So it would be great to see them.
Mm.
uh I'm not sure I can deal with the cursing. because it's like it. So I'm even at this point, I'm struggling with, am I going to go? I haven't seen them in years, so it would be great to see them and hug their necks and everything. I'm not sure if I want to sit through all of that to get to that. And I it very well may be worth it. And I'm not trying to act like I'm so super saved. I just know that what it does to my spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm in the midst of that. And so I don't keep in touch like that. We don't keep in touch like that because I'm a part of a whole nother community, but we all are still friends. And you'll get a random call from time to time, or you'll get a hit on Instagram or something like that. So we all still acknowledge each other. They don't act like they don't know me or anything like that. But it's just a whole nother community for me, and I probably make them just as uncomfortable sometimes. Not sure.
Well,
Yeah, go ahead.
go
Michelle.
ahead. I was going to say, I think that's beautiful that you didn't burn any bridges, that you still have connections and you can support them from afar, So like, I like that. And, you can meet for dinner beforehand or something, or see them after.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have to. Yeah, but I love that. Okay, go ahead, June.
Well, and I think too that just like our lives have different seasons, friendships can come in different seasons as well. And it's not that you don't love that person, but it's they're in a different place in their life and you're in a different place in your life. I have friends that I grew up with and I love dearly. And when I see them, I want to hug them and speak with them. But if I have an issue going on in my life, I'm going to call Michele Van Dusen because I know that she's going to pray about what she talks to me about. She's going to tell me to pray. She's somebody who is wise and somebody that I can trust. And she's somebody who gets where I'm at, and someone that, like, when I read something new in the Bible in my June bug brain and it's all brand new to me, I can reach out to this person. And it's not that we that we cut ourselves off, but also when your likes are and dislikes are different. There are a certain group of friends that, like, immediately when I said I was doing Christian comedy, they stopped inviting me to do things with them, not because I'm sitting in judgment of them, but because they felt uncomfortable with me there, because they were like, man, I don't want to drink or go trying to pick up guys or do this stuff if June's in the room.
Right.
And at first I was a little bit hurtful because I'm like, I've never said anything to hurt these folks. You know what I mean? Or to tell them that, like, you're going to hell because you had a beer, whatever. Like, I've never been that person. But then at the same time, I felt like God was like, no, I'm protecting you too.
Right.
Like, that's not the space that you need to be in. We're trying to deconstruct some stuff that you have residue that was still in there, that needed to go. So I totally get that. And I know that you, from the little bit of time that I've got to spend with you, I know that you love people and you care about people. And if you make the decision to separate from something, then it's for good reason. It's for good reason.
Yeah. No, definitely.
But hey, go ahead.
I'm sorry. No, it's exactly like what you said, because there are times I've been invited to parties and I know how these people party, and I'm like, no, I'm not. And it's not to come down on them. It's because for one, I don't want to make you uncomfortable, because I know the type of music that's going to be played. And I know that I don't want that ringing in my head after it's all said and done, just to appease you by being at your party. Now, if you really wanted me there, then you would play more respectable music that I wouldn't mind sitting through, so you get mad at me because I don't want to come to the party, but it's okay for you to offend me, but you're offended that I don't want to come. So, it's a catch-22, but no, I love my friends. We're just in different places and we respect that about each other.
I think too, I'm just getting too old for that stuff. I'm like, it's 9 o'clock. I want to go home. But I'm also such a baby that I'm like, I want you to invite me, but I don't want to go. So
yes, that is it. Let me just say no, but thanks for letting me feel good for the invite. Yeah.
Me, I
Yeah.
know, because like one of my sisters, she invites me every year, and I know it's going to be a ratchet party, and it's like, why do you even bother to invite me? And she got so angry one time that she said, well, hopefully when I die, you'll be at my funeral. I say I will if they're not playing ratchet rap music.
That's right.
So, but if they are, I'm going to be on it Zoom. So
Mute, where you can mute the funeral.
right, it'll be on the internet. So she throws that at me, and I'm a comedian. I got to come back. So
Mhm.
Well, they'll
Well,
be
hey,
dead. You could change the channel. They won't know.
right,
yeah, that's
right.
true.
So
That's true. Throw a little comment in the Facebook line, and then you're out. Just love you, miss you, bye.
Yeah.
So, hey, I wanted, before we let you go, I definitely want to talk about your book.
Mhm.
The first time I met you was at a CCA event in
Mhm.
Texas, and you were sharing this book, and I think that it had just been published, and this was really where, Chinnita, this is really where I was drawn to you, because I'm not somebody who knew the Christian culture and who the names were and who, all of that stuff. Like, and I, so most of the time I have no idea who I'm in the room with, even if it's
Right.
the whoever I didn't know. And so I was just learning different people and different people's journey. And they had this separate room where you were sharing about your book. There was like a breakout session. You were sharing about your book. And I was overwhelmed by just how beautiful your heart is, just how willing you were to be vulnerable, telling a tough story. This year, Rick Roberts, that was the theme of what he talked about. He had been diagnosed with cancer this last year, had gone through a really tough time, and he encouraged and challenged all of us to dig into our tough story and share that with people. And so I saw this beautiful woman with this beautiful heart bear it all in front of her peers and share her tough story. And so I got the book. I read it. I highly recommend it. It's called Gracefully Broken, Wonderfully Restored, Overcoming Spiritual Seduction by Chinnita Morris. And so I just wanted you to maybe share just a little bit about your book, tell people how they can get that book. And I just personally want to thank you for, I think I bought the digital copy, and then I bought the paperback, and I got the signature, Michelle, the signature. But share with us about this book, because I think it's really powerful.
Well, I, without going too much in detail about it, because I like people to get it for themselves. And truthfully, I plan to rewrite and re-edit the book. And because it's a lot of stuff I feel like I need to put in there. But it's just a situation. It happened years ago. And I was just like, I could not believe the enemy could move like that. And here I am, I like to refer to myself as Enoch. Enoch in the Bible, he was so righteous that God just took him from the face of the earth. And I was just trying to live my life like Enoch, Lord, I want to be that righteous for you. But apparently I was getting a lot of things wrong. And so God allowed me to go through this hell, if you will. And I just could not believe that this was happening to me. And I mean, when people see overcoming spiritual seduction, they are like, ooh, spooky. Well, it was a situation that when it happened, I'm like, okay, if this happened to me, how many other people are going through something like this and are afraid to say something and are stuck? Because if this had happened to me before I knew the Lord, I'm pretty sure I would have been stuck. But it was because I knew Christ and how to overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of my testimony. And as embarrassed as I was about this situation and what I was going through, I knew that I had to tell my pastor, and another person that God had led me to talk to about it. And I'm expecting rebuke. Not only was I expecting it, I wanted it. But these two people loved me through this situation, and it taught me, because when they were loving me through this situation, when they were not rebuking me to scorn, I realized, wait a minute, when I see people fall, this is not how I respond. I respond in kind like that. I don't respond in love like that. Why they responded, this is horrible what I'm dealing with. Why are they being so nice? And it was God's way of showing me, you don't understand grace until you need it yourself. And I needed it. I needed grace on top of grace on top of grace. And I really just every day I woke up like, what in the world? I just could not even believe that I was going through this. I really could not. And then after I wrote the book and became more transparent about it, I couldn't believe how often this happens, or how many people deal with this, whether unknowing, whether they deal with it because they want to, or because of spiritual seduction. I didn't realize that a lot of people had feelings like that, and then here I am all of a sudden going through something that is just incredibly foreign to me. And I was very naive, but God kept me through it all. And one thing about doing the secular comedy, I was very bold to say a lot of the things that I said. And when I came to Christ, it was like God said to me, I'm gonna use that same boldness to call out the enemy. And when this happened to me, I was so angry. I was so mad at the devil. I was so mad at the devil, because this to me was just incredibly unfair. You are not fighting fair, but who in the world, why would I ever think that the devil would fight fair?
Right.
And so I'm like, no, I'm putting you on blast, and God's going to get the glory for this, because I'm going to overcome, and it was just the blood of Christ applied to my life, and the grace of God and his mercy that kept me and gave me strength, because at one point I couldn't even talk about this without crying. It just hurts so bad, so deeply. And I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy. And so knowing that the way it came to me, this had to be going on a lot more than is being talked about. And so I wanted to bring light to it, to say, if I have to be the one to throw myself on the altar, then so be it. But this needs to be talked about, because with us being silent about things that are happening in the pews, people are suffering and are being taken under without really understanding what they're experiencing. So, yeah.
Yeah. So, one of the things that I took out of it was just reading what you're going through, and going out and still doing comedy, and having this like guilty, like, how can I do anything for God when I'm, struggling here, struggling there. And at the time that I read the book, there were some things that I was dealing with where I'm like, it felt like a fraud, that I should just go hide and not come out and just be done. And so it was just such a just a powerful thing to be so brave to share your tough story. And I encourage people to read it and just dive into it. And it really, it blessed me to be able to get the book at the time that I did. And I know that other people, it has brought light. And I love that you said, you know, the spiritual seduction. You know, I think a lot of times people think sin is like this dark creeping up, this, that, whatever. And it's this, sin can be fun, sin can be exciting, sin can be, you know, all of these things, because it, you know, I don't know that there's times that the devil ever walked up and said, June, I want you to betray God's trust in you. I want you to just, this is what I'm going to have you do, and it's really going to hurt God's feelings. No, he has circled me around in a situation where all of a sudden I look up and go, you got me. You got me. But praise God that we serve a God who is not ignorant to what we're going through and loves us. When you were talking about the people who embrace you, it made me think about the prodigal son. And the first time that I had somebody break down to me that the father ran to him. And the expectation was to be rejected and beaten and, you know, just maybe a little bit better off than eating slop with the pigs, right? That's it. And that's not what happened. His father, our father, man, he just says, turn back to me and I'll come running. You don't even have to take all the steps. I'm coming for you because I love you. And I think that your story, excuse me, has been a beautiful and redeeming story. So I encourage our listeners to check it out. And I'm excited to, you know, to get to see the rewrite and updates, because I know that there's a lot of journey that you've made since that time that you wrote the book.
So where can they purchase the book, Gracefully Broken, Wonderfully Restored, Overcoming Spiritual Seduction by Chinnita Morris? Where can we purchase this?
Right now, you can get it on Amazon. That's the only, I'm not really marketing it right now, but people are still purchasing it. I'm not marketing it because I'm going to rewrite it. It'll pretty much still stay the same, but there are some things that I wanted to add to it. You know, but sometimes you're talking to one of your friends and she's like, why you didn't put that in the book? You know, and so it's like, okay, it's a lot. And then it's funny because when I was coming to the conference in Texas, I met a woman who, you know, she was telling me, she was like, well, you know, in your spare time, since you're not, you know, that busy right now, just write a book or something. And I said, no, I've already done that. And she was like, really? What was it about? And the more I began to share with her what it was about, she was like, are you serious? And she was like, I've been through that.
Wow.
And we shared some of the same feelings and sentiments that was going through. Her situation was a little bit different than mine, but it was spiritual seduction nonetheless. And this is one thing. And so she got my book, and she called me after she read it, and she was a little bit irritated.
Why?
And, yeah, she was. She said, now, I'm a little jealous that you've gotten yours written and published and everything. I need to write my book. She said, but I will say this. She said, I'm a little bit irritated because you didn't call this person out. She said, this was a predator. And it's very obvious that this was a predator. And if you need me to point out, you know, the things that make that obvious, I will do that for you. She said, but there needs to be a chapter in here that talks about predators in the church, you know. And because, she said, because if you're going to, she said, you never address this person as a predator. And she said, if you're going to bring that up, people need to know what to look for when a predator approaches them. And so it's things like that you know, make me say, okay, I may need to re-edit and add some stuff. So she said I was very triggered by this book. She said I cried through the whole book. So yeah. And I've had people say they cried and they laughed and they cried some more. So, yeah. I wanna rewrite it, edit it, and do it right because book publishing can be cutthroat. So yeah, I'm not really marketing it because of that. And then the new name may not be so nice. so, so we'll see. Y'all wait for me on that one because I've come up with a name and I'm like, I don't know if the church will embrace that. So, but so yeah.
I love that you have a friend who is like, why didn't you put this in there? Why didn't you put it in there? I've been writing a book for a couple of years and Michelle's like, why are you putting that in there? No.
I have plenty of friends who said, I don't know if I would have told that. Yeah, well, that's telling it because not too many people will. And I know that there's some people who are stuck and they need to be delivered. They need to know how to become unstuck. And it's only the grace of God. You got to hold to his unchanging hand. Now, one thing about it was, I wind up in sin doing something I didn't even have a desire to do. And one thing I learned, the biggest lesson I learned from this is that everybody in sin don't want to be there. And it took me going through something like this to realize that, because I was judgmental, and self-righteous. And, so it was a lesson. It was a hard lesson. And I always felt like, God, you could have showed me that another way. So it wasn't like I walked away from God or, fell into sin and, was in a backslidden state. No, every day I'm in prayer. I amped it up a notch every day trying to, break loose from these chains that the enemy. And I just, the Bible tells us to not be ignorant of the enemy's devices. And I was, I just did not know he could come at you like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I do love that you mentioned though that there's some laughter in it and some, there's of course there's some humorous edge that you sprinkle in there too, because we know that especially with a tough story, laughter can diffuse and give us a second to breathe to go through that process. And so we so appreciate Chinnita you being on here sharing with us about that. And speaking of laughter, man, you're still out there making people laugh, and we definitely want them to follow you, check out where you're going to be. I noticed some recent show flyers, some stuff going on. And so we want people to follow. It's at I'm Still Chocolate on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. That's I'm Still Chocolate on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. So we want our listeners to go check her out, like her YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook, follow. And if she is anywhere near you, definitely go and check out Chinnita Morris, aka Chocolate. All right. Michelle, great interview.
Yes, this was fantastic. I like the fact that you guys were sitting over there talking about, sin and all that and how it just kind of sneaks up on you. I'm like, look, all I had was one bowl of ice cream and this is what happened. I don't know. I don't know how. I didn't eat a bunch of ice cream or a bunch of chocolate. I just had one piece. That's it.
Well, be careful.
Now we got to work on lying.
Right.
Hey now. No, thank you so much for being with us today. I really appreciate it. You have some great insights, and I love that you haven't burned any bridges, that you just allowed God to take you on this path, and you started out funny and you're still funny. I love the fact that I'm still chocolate. Like that's your handle. I love that because your gift didn't change. You were always meant to bring the joy that you have and the laughter to people. And I got to be honest, I've watched you on stage. You are a force to be reckoned with. You're amazing. And so I love the fact that you're clean and just everything. So thank you for sharing your story with us today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. You know, I've done comedy on the secular side, but let me tell you something. I think this is the hardest type of comedy to do. And I don't know how long you guys have been in it, but you know, now I have such an appreciation for the gift that God has given me, and it blesses me. It's therapeutic for me. I love doing what I do. I love being bringing joy to other people. But to know that God has entrusted you with such a gift, it's incredible. It's an incredible gift to have. And I don't know if you guys appreciate it like you should yet, but it's coming. Trust me, it's a beautiful gift.
My first show's next week. I hope I do okay.
Stop. She's again, we're working on lying. Michelle, stop lying. Oh my gosh. Chinnita, Michelle's gonna kick you backstage for just a minute. If you still love us and you're okay hanging around with liars, then don't go anywhere. We want to give you a proper goodbye, and we're gonna close this show out real quick. Michelle, you're embarrassing me in front of my friend. So shameful. So and between the two of us, people are always like, Michelle the saint, Michelle the Bible scholar, Michelle and then you lie. You
All
lie.
I'm saying is maybe the nuns knew better. Maybe they knew. That's why they're like, we're not taking you.
Maybe. You know, okay, so maybe I used to say bad words and you never cuss, but at least I don't lie to people's faces.
I never said I never cussed. I did try. Like I tried to have a testimony. So I really worked hard at some of those things. It didn't come out right.
Happen. You know what? We're gonna get out of here before your pants catch on fire. So go ahead with your cheesy mom joke to end out this episode. As I always say, y'all, thank you for listening. And Jesus and Junebug loves you. Michelle, torture me. Go ahead.
Listen, June, all I'm gonna say is, you know, if things don't always pine out the way you want them to, you know, but you cannot give up. That's all I'm saying. Okay, that was a pun. You didn't get that. Listen, why did the donut visit the dentist?
Why did the donut visit the dentist, Michelle?
Because he needed a chocolate filling. What? You guys, thanks for listening. We'll see you the next time.